I'm Ari Lax, and this week we're going to be trying out a deck that's kind of been rising up through the ranks of Magic Online, some RPDQs, various other events, and that is Eldrazi Tron. So, what the Eldrazi Tron deck is trying to accomplish is really the same thing as the basic Eldrazi deck, which is tap Eldrazi Temple and play a cheaper, middling Eldrazi spell. But at the same time, it has opted for the ramp redundancy in the form of Tron instead of Noble Hierarch like the Bant Eldrazi deck has, and as a result, um, it stretches a little bit higher up the curve. So to kind of go through, um, we have non-Tron lands. You have, with Tron and Eldrazi Temple, there's no chance of you actually playing a real color. So off the table, we're playing Waste. Um, we can map and Ghost Quarter ourselves for Waste to beat a Blood Moon, whereas Bant struggles to cast colorless spells without actual colorless lands in play due to Blood Moon. A mix of random utility lands, a cavern. I'm not going to pretend to know which of these is actually better, but Ghost Quarter is probably the best one because it disrupts opposing Tron decks and the like. Cavern might actually be the next best because it makes your mid-range Eldrazi spells uncounterable. Um, Bunch of Tron lands, maps. Notable thing with this deck is that map 2 lands and a Thought-Knot Seer as a turn 3 Seer. You can map up Eldrazi Temple. I believe some of the red-green Eldrazi lists in the Eye of Ugin days were playing this card for a similar reason. So we've got interaction. There's a shocking amount of it for colorless decks. You have Chalice, which is great against some decks. You aren't trying to spike one-drop like Serum Visions decks with a turn 1 Chalice, but the way Simian Spirit Guide decks are. But you end up in this spot where they're going to be playing enough one-drops over the course of the game that doesn't really matter too much. Let's see, we got Dismembers, and those are just the removal spell you kind of have to play to take care of creatures. Warping Whale kind of counters stuff, sometimes ramps you. You can go, two non Eldrazi Temple or Tron lands or whatever. If you don't Tron up, you can Warping Whale into a turn 3 Seer. Randomly kills some creatures like Blinkmoth Nexus 2 against the decks you need the removal the most, which is kind of nice. And then Spellskite, kind of random interaction. All is Dust, another kind of random piece of interaction. Mid-range-ish creatures. There's not really a good way to find the split. We got some Batter Skulls, just big life gain threat. Nothing too special about the selection here. All of the obvious Eldrazi. Endbringer, as you're going further up the curve, you want some payoff that you can actually cast if you Tron and get paid off for having Tron, but at the same time is castable even if you don't Tron. We've got some high-end Eldrazi to find and cast when we go super big, and then a Walking Ballista kind of ties everything together. This is a card that Tom Ross was advertising for Mono Green Tron that fits really nicely here. Taking out cheap infect creatures, giving you a big mana sink, just being a giant creature in general. Sideboard is kind of a best of colorless hate cards. Relic for Dredge, Ratchet Bomb for random stuff, wide decks, and random artifacts and enchantments that colorless decks would otherwise struggle with. Some more All is Dust as sweepers, breakers, and mid-range mirrors. Crucible to churn through Ghost Quarters against opposing Tron decks or the Mirror. Card Eliminated as another big threat. You can just kind of jam at people. Basilisk Collar. This is the card that initially made me... I've seen some of these lists without Walking Ballista, and that's what attracted me to the Ballista list, is that you have Basilisk Collar as a way to make Endbringer just KO whatever you want it to. It's kind of cute, another way to gain life, but Walking Ballista is just another card that works really well with Collar. A little bit of additional early removal. I'm not sure why this is Contortion over another Dismember, but whatever. Another Spellskite and Ballista kind of shore up the matchups we want that specific piece of interaction. And then some Pithy Needles as random catch-alls. Not too much to talk about here because it's literally just the colorless Eldrazi and then all the standard colorless spells that you can put in a deck. But it's kind of a new angle to the deck. It goes a little bigger than the past versions of Eldrazi, and it will be interesting to see if the Tron plan is remotely reliable or if it's something that just kind of incidentally happens on occasion, and for the most part, you are still just an Eldrazi Temple deck.